and today I'm going to talk to you about the requirements of life. So hopefully you've watched the previous video about basically what anatomy and physiology is, and so you know that we're going to study form and function. Well, we're going to talk about that because we're talking about living organisms, and in particular this course we're talking about the human body. And so there are some things that you must have in order to be considered alive, and so we're going to talk about those today. The first thing is we have some necessary life functions, and when I say function, I mean these are things that we kind of have to do. And the first one is to maintain a boundary. We have to have something that divides us from our either outside environment or divisions inside of our own bodies. So for example, you're going to have membranes that separate one organ from another, or one cell from another cell. You have your skin, which is going to separate you from your outside environment. Not just humans, but all animals have this. Even a single-cell bacteria is going to have a membrane, a cell membrane, to separate it from its environment. So there's got to be some way to delineate you from either the outside environment or your heart from your lungs, your stomach from your intestines, your kidneys from your liver. All these things have to be separated and kind of within their own little boundary. You also have to have some kind of movement. We use the word contractility also it means movement. And this can either mean your whole body. You can move everything, just walk across the room, or certain parts. You can move your arm or your head or your legs. But it also means things inside your body are moving. For example, your heart is moving, it's pumping, and it's moving blood or substances through the veins and arteries in your body. You can move food through your digestive system, and that's smooth muscle does that. So everything has to move, and you may think, well, not everything moves. There's some animals that don't move, like maybe an anemone in the bottom of the ocean. Well, actually it does. It may be stationary on a coral, but the little tentacles are moving, and when it catches the fish and it goes to its mouth part and it starts to eat it, there's movement going on there. So you have to have some kind of movement in order to be considered alive. You also have to be able to respond. We call this responsiveness. And this means that you're able to sense some kind of stimulus and make an appropriate response to that. For example, if you were to touch something hot, you would withdraw your hand. So you would touch something hot, that would be the stimulus. The response would be to withdraw your hand. Also, say you've been running and exercising, and all of a sudden your breathing rate starts to go up. Well, that's a response. The stimulus is you need more oxygen, and you need to get rid of more carbon dioxide and bring in more oxygen. And so your respiration rate is going to increase so that you can breathe more. So we can basically, if you're hungry, your stomach growls, that's the stimulus that you're hungry, so your response is to go eat. You also have to be able to digest. So once you eat that food, you've got to be able to do something with it. You've got to be able to break it down into its component parts, and then you need to be able to absorb those pieces of food. So for example, if you eat a steak, you're going to chew it up, and it's going to go down your esophagus and into your stomach, and it's going to start being digested and go into your small intestine. Well, the stuff that's been broken down, the proteins, the fats, that's got to be taken into your small intestine and then into your bloodstream so that your body can actually use it. So you've got to be able to break it down and absorb it. You also have to have something called metabolism. And so metabolism is basically all the chemical reactions that occur in your body. So your body is basically just one big chemical reaction. There's something going on all the time in your body that requires chemistry. And you're going to learn a little bit about chemistry in the coming weeks. But basically there's two main types of chemistry going on in your body. You have catabolism and anabolism. And you've heard the word an anabolic steroid. That's something that maybe bodybuilders take to kind of pump their body up and get more muscle. Well, anabolism is to build, and catabolism is to break. So you want to break things down, like digestion, breaking down foodstuffs, and then you're going to take whatever you've broken down, the proteins, the amino acids, the sugars, and you're going to build things back up. So you eat a steak, digest it, break it down into its component proteins and amino acids. Use those same amino acids to build back up and make your own muscle. So you're constantly breaking things down and building them back up. One thing, this is the chemical symbol for glucose, and we use that in a process called respiration, and that will give us which what we call energy, or ATP. And a byproduct of that is carbon dioxide and water. So we're constantly building things up and breaking them down. All these things that are going on in your body also make waste products. You don't want those waste products to build up in your body. You've probably heard of them called toxins or whatever. But there's things you've got to get rid of, and we call that excretion. And so anything that you need to basically get rid of, like carbon dioxide, you breathe that out. Urea, you get rid of that through urine. The waste products from food goes out in our feces. The urea is going to go out in your urine. You're going to actually get rid of stuff in your sweat. So there's got to be a way to get rid of stuff. So we call that excretion. We've got to have reproduction. We've got to make more stuff. And so when you think of reproduction, don't just think of offspring. Okay, it's not just offspring. We do need to do that in order to, keep our species alive. We've got to have babies. So that's obviously something that you have to do. But you also have to reproduce cells. And think about if you cut yourself, your skin's going to heal. Well, that healing is basically more cells being made. You have to have more blood cells, your hair grows. So there's always reproduction on a cellular level and on a organismal level. Then you have to have growth. Otherwise, we would all still be the size we were when we were born. So you want to be able to get bigger. And so you've got to have an increase in not only the whole body, but each body part. So you've got to have growth as well. Now, for all of those things to occur, in order for you to be alive, you've got to have some things coming in. You've got to have definitely some needs, some things that you absolutely have to have. The first one, though, is just nutrients. You've got to have food. Okay? And so these are the chemicals that we're going to use to make energy, specifically ATP. We're going to use it to build our cells. We need amino acids, we need proteins, we need fats. Carbohydrates are sugars. We need vitamins like vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin A. We need some minerals like calcium. So all these things have to be brought into our bodies, usually via food, so that we can use those to survive. We also need oxygen. And the elementary thing that you hear is, oh, we need oxygen to breathe. Well, yeah, we have to breathe in oxygen, but that's not why we need it. We use the oxygen for a very specific purpose, and it's to make ATP. And you're going to learn about cellular respiration. Really soon. And basically, cellular respiration is basically how you take a glucose, which is a sugar, and you add some oxygen, which you get in from breathing, and through a long process, you wind up with some ATP. And you're going to learn all about that in the coming weeks. But that's the reason we have to have oxygen. Because ATP is the only way our body can actually use energy. It is the energy source that our body uses. So when you move a muscle, you're actually using ATP. So you've got to have the ATP in order to do just about everything. You also have to have water. Good old H2O. And it's the most abundant chemical in our body. It is chemical. And we have it everywhere. And it's the site of all of our chemical reactions. And it keeps things moisturized and hydrated. So you've got to have it. You also have to have a normal body temperature. Our normal body temperature, you should know by now, is 98.6. But we can function anywhere between about 94 to 103. Once you start getting out of those ranges, you start to have some problems. Especially 104, 105, start to have brain injury. Below 94, things start to slow down. Chemical reactions are definitely affected by temperature. So you have to stay in this narrow range in order for the chemical reactions in your body to occur like they need to. And then you also need atmospheric pressure. And that's in order for you to breathe and exchange gas. And so that's why you can't just go out into space where there's no pressure unless you're in a pressurized suit. Or if you're going to go scuba diving, you've got to have a regulator that's going to pressurize the air so that you can breathe it. You've got to have a certain amount of atmospheric pressure in order for your respiratory systems to work effectively. You may have noticed that if you ever go high, like up on a mountain, say at 14,000 feet, if you've ever been to Colorado, you kind of notice it's a little harder to breathe. The atmospheric pressure is not quite the same as it is here in Alabama. It makes it a little harder for you to breathe. So you have to have that atmospheric pressure in order to exchange gases. So that's basically all there is for survival needs and requirements of life. Just take this and think about when you learned about the organ systems on the previous talk about the respiratory system and the urinary system and the reproductive system. Think about how all those different systems tie into what I just told you now. And so you start to make these connections on which these systems do which of these jobs, which ones are for movement, which ones are for taking in nutrients, which ones are for excreting waste products, which ones are for growth, which ones are for reproduction. So just kind of start adding these together and start making some connections. If you have any questions, come see me, call me, email me, or any other instructor here at Calhoun. Thank you.